So SafARI was founded by Lisa Corsi and Margaret Farmer, and it was intended to be the unofficial fringe event to the Biennale of Sydney. And basically it's about providing a counterpoint. So where the Biennale is, obviously a very large scale international event, SafARI is about profiling emerging and unrepresented Australian artists. The reason that we do it at the time of the Biennale is to basically try and muscle in on a little bit of the attention that's on Sydney and the arts in Sydney at this time. Whether we do that successfully or not is kind of, remains to be told.
This year we're in the Rocks. Most of our program is in the Rocks. So for the first time we've actually been geographically close to the Biennale with the MCA and the wharfs and the stop off to Cockatoo Island, and it has meant that we are getting, the crowds kind of coming through and doing the Biennale and the SafARI circuit, and we've really felt that, which has been really exciting.
So SafARI changes each year. It's always a curatorial duo, but there's one curator who's carried on from the previous year and one that's kind of joined. And I guess with that comes this new collaboration, and SafARI each time takes on a new flavour. But there are a couple of things that remain really core. The first is that it's an open invitation, it's a call for submissions, it's not about inviting who you know. And the other is that all the artists have to be emerging and or unrepresented.
Danielle and I did our open call and we received over 180 applications from around Australia. It took us around 5 weeks to come to our final 16 artists. We ended up selecting artists from Brisbane, Sydney, Melbourne and Adelaide. And I guess there's a nice range between very emerging, really emerging. Clark Beaumont, for example, was still in their final year at art school, to artists that would be more established, 10 years of practice or more, but still unrepresented by a gallery, which is our, so we were kind of true to that.
So there isn't a curatorial theme in the traditional sense. It's really, it goes back to that idea that SafARI has to be an open call for submissions. So it's about taking the pulse of emerging arts practice in Australia at this time. And I guess there is a level of interpretation in that process, because it ultimately is Nina and I responding to the submissions that we received, but rather than have a particular agenda, it was really about responding to the calibre of ideas, the complexity of practice. I think in hindsight, when we talked about who we selected, we sort of looked at everyone and realised that there were a couple of common characteristics. A lot of the people, a lot of the artists that we responded strongly to were very intelligent and working on a number of layers. So, there are some comic elements to a lot of the works, but obviously that's by no means the only sort of superficial level that they're working on. There are, there's just a lot of layers. And something else that really came out, again, intuitively, that maybe what we responded to was a lot of the artists are very interdisciplinary and come from very mixed backgrounds. So some have come through the more sort of fine arts sort of road, but others have come from, Julie Day, for example, is a trained classical composer. Tiga Brain trained originally as an engineer. Julie Henderson was a dancer. So
I guess reflecting on the common pulse of emerging arts practice, or certainly what we responded to, was obsession. Actually, it seems like there's, especially with the artists that we really responded to, there seems to be a sort of an honesty with having obsessive thoughts or ideas and actually embracing them in an incredibly creative and rigorous way. And I think all of our artists could actually be like that, and I think being completely unashamed about their obsessions and following them to a point where I guess it's sort of creatively engaging for not only them but the audience. In terms of taking the pulse of the entire emerging arts practice, I think it's a really hard thing to do, and especially because it is so subjective. Next time it could be a completely different landscape represented. So I think that's what's so great about emerging contemporary art, that you can select and from a different pool. And we needed to take this holistic approach on at each of those artists, and I think, you know, their diverse backgrounds excited us as a group, their multidisciplinary careers, I suppose, and the fact that there were such a vast age group, you know, from 20 to 60 years old, and we were really excited about that. And I guess each artist in their own right stands alone, and so we weren't so concerned about linking everyone together. Yeah. And I actually think that's great, because it's meant that you get a real snapshot of a lot of different disciplines and a lot of different artists. So, yeah.